EP wants both our Switch systems. I found out about this subreddit a few days ago and decided to share a story that happened to me last month. So my girlfriend and I recently got engaged, and rather than telling my parents over the phone, we went up to visit them. It's a long trip from where we live to my parents, about 5 hours, so rather than drive we booked train tickets. We traveled up there with no issues and had a lovely weekend with my folks who couldn't be happier about the news. Then came time to return home. We boarded the train, and like with our trip down, the two of us had on Nintendo Switches. The first hour was fine, we'd been playing Smash, and decided to swap out to Mario Kart. The train was pulling into its next station and a bunch of passengers got on. A woman, EP, mid-late 30s, and her son, EC, 6 or 7, sat on the chairs on the other side of the aisle from us. At first nothing, the train moved on from the station, then a few minutes passed, and I glance and see that EC is staring at us from his seat. He notices me and then turns to his mum and shouts, "Mum, I'm bored. Did you bring your game, like I told you?" "No, I forgot it. They have games. Get me theirs." EP tries to get our attention, at first asking fairly politely if she could borrow one of our Switches. I say sorry, but we are playing them, and that I'm not particularly comfortable borrowing my stuff to strangers, and we go back to our game. That's when things turned ugly. EC at this point has started crying and kicking the seat in front of him. Thankfully no one is sitting in it. That's when she starts shouting at us. "See what he's doing now? This is your fault." "I'm sorry, but how is it my fault? You can't control your kid." "Yeah, you should have made sure to pack stuff for him to do if you knew you were bringing him on a long trip." "I told him to but he forgot." "Again, not our fault. You should have made sure he had it. You can't expect a little kid to remember to grab stuff." At this point she was ranting and raving, a lot of which I could barely understand over the kid screaming, but then I did hear, "What do people your age even have these games for anyway? You don't need them. If anything you should be letting us use both of them, so I can play with my son. Sorry, but we enjoy these games. One of the reasons we're even traveling by train is as an excuse, so we can play them together. Now can you please just leave us alone?" In this time I noticed at least one passenger point out the confrontation to the conductor, who'd been keeping an eye on the situation, but hasn't yet said anything or stepped in. Thankfully at this time EP has shut up, and even the EC had started to calm down. By this point my girlfriend and I had gotten to the point where we couldn't be bothered to continue with Mario Kart, so we both pull our Switch cases out of our bags and proceed to pick what to play next, and deciding to go back to Smash to rid us both of some of the built-up frustration from the encounter. Now this next part, I'll admit I should have seen coming, and was partly my fault for leaving it in a place EC could reach. But he must have seen that I was keeping the case for my Switch, which had all the games I'd brought on the trip, in my rucksack that was hanging on the arm of my seat. Because suddenly I felt a bag move and hit my leg a few times. At first I just thought it was the train moving, but as I glanced over, there was EC holding my Switch case pulling out the cards. "Hey, tell him to give that back, or I'll come over there and take it. Don't you dare threaten my son. Your son is a thief. Give it back now." "Why? You're not playing these games. Let him look. There are over £500 worth of games in that case. Give me them now, before he loses them." It was at this point that the sweetest piece of revenge happened. EC licked one of the Switch cards. He then started to scream in terror. Now for those who don't know, due to the small size of the Switch cards, Nintendo coats them in a non-toxic bittering agent known as denatonium benzoate to discourage small children from eating them, and naturally it tastes awful. EP started screaming about how we'd poisoned her child, and the conductor finally came and stepped in. EP tried to play the victim, saying we'd stolen both of their Switch systems, and then tried to kill her son by poisoning him, and demanded they phone the police. But the conductor wasn't having any of it, as he'd been given the same report by multiple passengers that this mother and son were harassing us. He made her give us back my Switch case and games, and he made the decision to remove them from the train at the next stop and make her wait for another one, all while her kid was still screamed in terror from the awful taste licking the cart had provided. That taste lasts quite a while on your tongue. The rest of the trip was extremely pleasant. The conductor couldn't do enough for us, and at the stop after the one EP and EC were forced to get off at, a mother and her daughter, about 10, sat in the seats behind us. She kept peeking over the seat to watch us play, and my girlfriend said it was fine if she wanted to watch. She spent the rest of the trip talking to us about our games and what games she played, and because we got to talk with her and get to know her, we actually did share our systems with her, with permission from her mother first. Please parents, raise your kids to be like this awesome young lady. I certainly hope any my girlfriend and I have will be like her and not the annoying EC brat. Give me both of the pizzas. My son and I deserve them. So I was in the shop buying 4 pizza for dinner for both my stepbrother and I, because why not? As I arrived at the frozen section to buy one of our favorite kinds of pizzas, only to find there's to left. Just enough for me and my bro. Lucky, right? Wrong. In comes entitled mother and her 14 to 16-year-old son. Excuse me, I was wondering if you could let me take those pizzas? At this point I didn't realize what I had gotten myself into. She had asked somewhat nicely, and I was already carrying some weight, so I thought I'd give my pizza and have something else for dinner while letting my stepbrother have the pizza. So being nice, I offered her one of the 2 boxes. She stood there confused for a few seconds until replying. And the other one? Oh, this one's for me. You can have this one. Excuse me, what is my son supposed to eat? Alarm bells by now were ringing inside my head, warning me that she was some stuck-up wench. Just by her expression alone I could tell she thought she was better than me. Look, I'm offering you one. The other one is for my brother. Take it or leave it. Well, you should have come in earlier then. They're both mine. Snobbishly. Take it or leave it. By this point I'm still holding on to both pizzas and I'd lost my patience with the bitch, so I turned around while still holding on to the 2 boxes and made a beeline for the checkouts. I did hear her spout some unsavory things behind my back. However, considering that I've got the 2 last pizza boxes, I consider that me. 1. EM. 0. Homophobic EP demands I leave theater. Context: I live in Trinidad and Tobago, where homosexuality was only legalized in 2018. I'm a lesbian. When Love Simon came out, I was surprised that it was allowed to be screened in my country, and I knew that it would probably get taken out of the theater pretty fast because of low box office pull or protests or something else like that. The movie came out in March 2018, I think. It was still technically illegal to be gay in TNT at the time, but I rounded up some friends who I knew were out at the time and we all went to go see the movie. Everything was going good. I had worn a shirt that had Girl Crush written across the front with a rainbow pride flag behind the text, but it was grey everywhere else. One of my friends had on a rainbow pin on her jacket. Each of us had a little thing that was alluding to our sexuality, just because of the movie we were going to go see. It was all good. We bought the tickets. The cashier there was friendly and everything, and we all felt like we weren't hated for once. I was in the line for concessions on my own. 2 friends went to go get seats. One was sitting at a little table nearby, and she had stayed back to help me carry the food. In comes the entitled parent and her child. They stand in line behind me. I was fiddling with the money I had in my hand, and I felt something pulling on my messenger bag. I look down, and I see the child. I'm bad at guessing age, but he was about 6. His head was around my hip in terms of height, so if you all know how old that is, then that's how old this boy was. He was tugging at a little rainbow enamel pin, which was next to a unicorn one and a cloud one, so I could have plausible deniability for being gay in certain situations. I simply bat his hand away and turn back around. He comes back and keeps playing with my pins, and I turn around and look at the EP. She was a little taller than me, and she was in heels, but she was pretty average built. I was 5'8" at the time, and I'm pretty heavy set. The side of my head was also shaved, and I didn't wear makeup, so I was suitably intimidating for a girl. Though, I was like 16 when this was happening, and I did not like talking to adults very much. This meant that I didn't exactly intimidate her. Me, turning around to face her. Excuse me, can you stop your kid from messing with my bag? He can do what he wants. He's going to pull out all my pins though. Those things don't belong on a purse, little girl. I sigh and take out the pins and drop them into my bag and just hope I don't forget to put them back on later. She then tapped my shoulder. I turned around, and she just looked me up and down, from my hair to my shirt to my shoes, and didn't say anything. I turned back around. I got to the front of the line and ordered the food for everybody. The cashier was friendly and set the popcorn and drinks in front of me, and she left to go and get the chicken tenders and other foodier foods. But I suddenly felt something push my butt, and I stumbled forward, almost knocking the popcorn over. I look behind me and see that stupid kid tugging on my jeans belt loops. I look at the lady. He can do what he wants. Next time the kid touches me, I put my palm on his forehead and try to push him back, like you see in those cartoons. I know it was probably overstepping to physically touch the child, but he was pinching my legs and tugging on my pants, which was getting on my nerves. The kid flips 180 and starts bawling, turning around and hugging his mother. The lady reaches over and grabs my arm, her gel/acrylic claws more or less stabbing my upper arm as she drags me away from the counter. People like you don't belong in this country, and if anyone like you ever touches my kid again I gon' beat they ass. She lets me go, but before I can turn around, she's stabbing her index nail into my chest. I'm married to a police officer, you stupid fucking faggot. People like you don't belong here. Fucking all our kids. Don't you fucking touch my son again. At that point, I'm terrified, because it's still illegal to be gay, technically, meaning that a lot of violence towards homosexuals goes uncovered and unnoticed in my country, and I had heard 100 different stories about gay people I knew personally, or that my friends knew getting beaten or worse, and nothing ever happened to the one who did it. Then comes in my friend to save the day. She told me later that was ready to come to my side from the minute the lady put her hand on me. My friend was more than enough to scare the EP. She's over 6 feet tall and plays volleyball with my school's team. She's tall with wide shoulders and a good bit of tone to her muscle, and all she had to do was come stand behind me and in front of the lady for the EP to go back to her lane. I got the food, paid, and my friend and I went into the theater. I never told the rest of my friends what happened because I already know that they're also scared of what might happen to them, and I didn't want to freak them out. Luckily the friend who helped me understood and didn't tell them either. Conclusion. I enjoyed the movie. I'm glad I saw it when I did, because it was pulled from theaters the very next week. Homosexuality was officially decriminalized that year, and now more people are more aware of the hate crimes gay folks face in my country, so they're actually doing something about it sometimes. You should have lost. My perfect son should have won. How is everyone doing? So backstory is pretty important for this story. I tried out for a team in my school. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it, but it's called TSA, Technology Student Association, not the TSA at the airports. I worked really hard on my TSA challenge, promotional marketing, and I live in Virginia. There are many regions in Virginia. My region had its competition on the 23rd, and I did pretty well. End of backstory. Sorry if it looks weird, I'm on mobile. ED is entitled dad, AK is annoying kid, MT is my teacher, D is dad, NL is nice lady, SG is security guard, me is meatball elephant. Me. I was pretty nervous since it was my first year doing TSA and one of my first times being in a competition. I went to the library. The regional competition was held in a high school. To turn in my stuff, there was a nice lady at the desk and she said, "Are you turning in your stuff for promotional marketing?" "Yes ma'am." "What's your name?" "Meatball elephant." "Thank you." The entitled dad was standing behind me the whole time, so when I turned around he was looking at me and said, "My son is going to beat you. You're not even going to place top 10. Me being polite, "Well good luck, and I don't care if your son beats me, at least I tried." I left to go find my dad. He was getting coffee. I didn't tell him what happened, cause I didn't care much for it. I went home and came back around 4:45 for the award ceremony. I told my friends what happened and they laughed and we played Super Smash Bros. We all went in the auditorium and the first challenge that they were announcing was promotional marketing. My heart dropped to my stomach. They announced the third place winner, someone from another school. Then second, they said my name and I was happy. And then first place someone from the school I go to, but she did really good on her project. So I see why. All the other challenges got announced and the thing ended. I was talking to one of my friends, then enters annoying kid and entitled dad. My dad was talking to my teacher, so he didn't notice until the entitled dad yelled at me. Me to my friend, "Did you get piranha plant?" Entitled dad interrupts my conversation. "How did you win?" "Because I put in at least 20 to 30 hours in this project." My friend dipped when the entitled dad started talking to me. He reads this subreddit. Annoying kid whispers something to entitled dad. I couldn't hear it. "Give me your trophy. You don't need it." "Excuse me? I won this trophy fair and square. Can you just leave me alone?" Entitled dad started yelling, "You're a cheater. You should be kicked out of TSA." This caught the attention of everyone in the auditorium, around 300 to 500 people, including my dad and my teacher. What's going on? This kid cheated and stole my son's trophy. Me, in my mind, how stupid can you be? 1. They announced my name. 2. I think he thought he was talking to a teacher and not my dad. Me and my dad look alike. They announced his name and he won. So can you please excuse us so we can go back to the school and celebrate? My school was number 1 in the region. They also announced that. While this was going down, my friend, the one that dipped, got the security guard. "What's going sir? He cheated and stole my son's trophy." Then comes nice lady, my savior. "He didn't steal the kid's trophy. I was the one that reviewed his work and announced that he won second." And the entitled dad harassed him when he was turning in his project. The annoying kid and the entitled dad were both embarrassed. They were kicked out of the school. That's not all. They tried confronting me and my dad in the parking lot, but the security guard was there to stop them. I left to go back to my school. We celebrated and I got to eat cake peacefully while telling the story to my friends. I also heard from someone that the kid got kicked out of his TSA team. So oof. The end. How don't you understand the words "don't touch me"? Made an account just to share this. Still a bit mystified by what happened. Some backstory on me. In summer 2017 I was in a car accident that ended up with my leg getting amputated above the knee. I had a decent prosthesis for a while and recently got refitted for a new one and it's a fair bit better. This means everything from about 4 inches above where my knee used to be down to my foot is now mechanical. So, the other day I was in Fredmere, a Kroger chain department store, with my wife to get some stuff. I was in the kitchen area. I love cooking, looking at random gadgets. I hear behind me a quiet, "Whoa." Thought it was my wife who had found something new to show. Turn around and I find a kid who's staring at my leg. Wife is probably 3/4 of the way down the aisle. The prosthesis, that is. Don't know why someone would look at my meat leg. I'm kind of used to people being weird about it, and I love kids. So I start talking to him about it. He asks a bunch of questions, like why do I have it, where'd it come from, etc etc. Obvious answer to give, I'm a pirate. Made him laugh. During this the kid's dad popped around the corner and seemed super friendly and nice. Finally the boy asks the dreaded question, can I touch it? I'm autistic and hate anyone but my wife, a couple very close friends to touch me. This extends to parts of my body which may or may not be made of flesh. Plus it was a newish leg, and I'm nervous about it getting broken by someone who has no idea what they're doing. Yes, I know it would likely never be broken by a child, but I'm kind of nervous about it happening anyway. Me is me. ED is entitled dad. W is Q borrowed voice. My wife. B is boy. Not entitled at all. Very sweet kid. Sorry, I really don't want anyone to touch it. It's new and I don't like people touching me. You can look all you like. The boy seemed to understand that happily. ED, who had up until this point been pleasant. Why can't he? Me, confused. I just said why. I know about prosthetics. He couldn't hurt it if he tried. Just let him touch it if he wants. My wife had heard this and come over to my rescue. She said she doesn't want to, she doesn't owe you. No idea what he said, just that he mumbled and got cut off by his dad. It's fine. Just go ahead and touch her leg. She won't mind. We already said no. Deal with it. To me. Come on hon, let's go. And we walked off down the aisle, hurrying as much as I can. Until we got to our car after checking out. I was paranoid that he'd try to find and chase us down. I feel bad for that kid having the conversation turned so suddenly.